eyes of the lobby and gets a knock onto Sky, assisted by Mixon, who actually get the credit for it. So Yapkin has to abandon ship, but Scroll and Sky still punished so heavily there by Yapko and Mixon playing spoiler. Noah Riley and Strokey, though, have completely taken back the high ground.
They have played this so well. Even when things look like they had gone out of their hands with the zone, they've changed their fortunes. Volko and Cringe looking now to take Mixon out, who sits below them. And they don't have much room to work with. They don't have much materials either. It's just going to be about delivering with the shotguns in hand. But the problem is Noah and Strokey look too strong on high tackle.
This is surely theirs to bring home. Game 3 was clearly the opening sequence of events here, but Noah Riley really strutting his stuff with 8 eliminations. Absolutely getting too fraggy with it throughout this lobby. And the bigger issue too, Levin, for the rest of the teams is just they couldn't deal with that last little elevation ship. But for Strokey and Noah Riley, they made the right call early on, playing the forfeiture, dropping to low ground only momentarily. Such a well-played lobby out of these two. Frankie, let's hear it.
Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, Taco summed it up perfectly there. This is a duo that understood when they were beat on the height, when to descend, and when to know that they were back on top, and literally on top, taking the victory royale together.
Quite as literally as it could be. I thought it was going to be season 3 for Fred and Marius. They had height again. They were looking like they could close it out, but Noah Riley quickly shut that dream down alongside Strokey. They were actually pretty mid on the leaderboard going into this match, 24th place. Despite that, Noah was still tied for the 3rd most eliminations, so they were getting fraggy. They weren't getting a lot of placements. Now that they got the VR, they can comfortably know that the golden ticket has been secured, and we will see them in the grand finals.
Yeah, yesterday we broke down legends of the EU scene, players that are still playing at the very top of their game, qualifying to major finals and still strutting their stuff at the very top of the game. No, really doing just that here in this game right now. That was an unbelievable game. I think it was 10 eliminations there, maybe more in the end of it. And I think the way that they played the game was really, really great. I spoke a lot about sort of Marius and Fredoxy not playing height so well. And you could argue that, yeah, they just got it taken off of them. But no, Rayleigh and Fastrokey showing exactly what you should do when height gets taken off of you. This here was absolutely perfect. The way they both just jumped in, not only going for the same player, but going for their each individual player, both staying alive, giving them all of the loot and materials that they need to then go take height, taking down height themselves in Marius and Fredoxy, who just about ran out of steam, and then closing out the game in absolute style. Really, really nicely done from these guys. Of course, the German duo that we expect to see, even though I suppose the German-speaking duo, we expect to see some big things from them, of course, with Noah being Swiss, but excited to see these guys in the major finals. It wouldn't be the same here in EU without Noah in the major finals.
I think Levin called it perfectly, as he always does, in that cast as well, in that we saw that height battle, who was going to establish it first, between those guys and between Yapko and Panzer, and the guys took one look at Yapko's tower and went, okay, no, you know what, let's descend to the middle. It was a good thing, because otherwise they would have got torn up by the AR and wouldn't have lived to tell the tale, or potentially to be in next weekend's grand finals. We've got so much more to talk about, though, from Game 4, so we will see you in a few minutes to do just that.
Who will win, chat? Who will win?
Welcome back to FNCS Europe. We've only got one more game before the end of Heat 2. I can hardly believe it. These games are going at a rapid pace because there's so much action packed into them. Takata, should we have a look at the leaderboard? Minnie, what do you think?
I think we should.
I think we should. Yeah, because
I'd like
with
to see
only
it.
one more game to go, guys. The stakes are really high. So you can see the first 4 names, they've already qualified through Victory Royales. And you can see Rax and Yanis in the #1 consistency spot. And they are an incredible double act. So tenacious, really lighting up the lobby. I would not want to be facing them on any of the layers. I noted they're not challenging for high ground, and I wonder if that's playing in their favor, or maybe it's because they're fighting so hard they're not always making it to those final moments. But clearly those eliminations are paying off. And Sky and Scroll, they've now gone up 8 places. I feel like it's been a difficult lobby for them so far, but if we know anything about these guys, Mini Miner, it's that they can hold on when it matters most.
It's been a really strange day for Sky and Scroll, actually, because, you know, we saw them have a really good first game. We're like, yeah, 4th place, looking good. And then they just had a couple of duds, and it's like, that's not the Sky and Scroll that we know, Takara. It's like, usually they're sort of consistently making those end games, and maybe they have one bad game in a tournament. I know that was from the sort of case when it came to the grand finals last time out. They had one really poor game, but for the rest of it, it just seemed like they were so consistent. Today, it's just been a bit topsy-turvy. It just seems like they haven't quite been at the races. And, of course, you know, they should be okay to qualify through. They're too good enough, too good of a team, I should say, to not qualify through. But it's looking a bit dicey for them right now. It's not confirmed.
Yeah, it is looking interesting. Another duo that's also, I mean, they're doing all right, but not really to the expectations that I like to see them at. It's that 12th place spot for Doxy and Marius at 119 points. I mean, you know, they're en route to qualify through consistency. It is top 15 after all 5 players that get a VR qualify through, but they just keep trying to take height. We've seen it 3 times, back to back to back, and every single time something goes wrong. It's at the start of the height retake sometimes, halfway through, and in this case, it was at the end of the height retake. They just cannot catch a break. So there's actually an interesting comparison that we can take a look at. Minnie, what do you think?
Yeah, we're sort of comparing Sky and Scroll to Marius and Frodoxa here, seeing how close they really are in terms of their placement, overall points, of course, eliminations as well. And the average placement from Sky and Scroll just only just a little bit better, really, than Marius and Frodoxa. It's definitely not something you'd expect. You'd expect to see Sky and Scroll surging up that leaderboard and so much higher than Marius and Frodoxa, who, as we just broke down by their own standards, are not having the greatest day either. And like you say, the height just isn't working for them. Actually, I didn't mind the way that they played height there. I thought they actually played it a lot better than previously. They didn't take it too early and try and sort of bully another team off of it, and then of course it didn't work out for them at the end. But yeah, not too bad of a game from them, but still not quite to where we'd expect from them.
Well, we expected the biggest bullies in the lobby to probably be Divas and Dom tonight, but actually it's turned out to be Yanis and Rax. This is a potent mix, Takata, of experience and, well, I'd say raw skill, but it's not looking raw at all, Takata. Rax is just on fire.
They have a disgusting amount of eliminations. I mean, it's not even close. I think that they're only one with 20+ eliminations in the lobby. They have been looking pretty unstoppable in terms of that. I mean, they've got more than enough points to qualify, but I kind of want to see them end on a win, Minnie.
Yeah, honestly, I'm quite surprised at how well these guys are sort of fighting together. I think a lot of people sort of look at Rax as the real fragger, you know, in the team, but I'm seeing Janice picking up a lot of eliminations as well. And for sort of the OG EU viewers, you would have known Janice from such a long time ago, and we've spoken at the beginning of the show today about some of the players, maybe the OG players that need a bit of a comeback, that haven't had the greatest performances as of late. And I suppose you could say that Janice hasn't been performing very well as of late either. Hasn't been up the top of his game, but maybe he's found his fit here when it comes to Rax, because they are absolutely on fire right now.
And Yanis did make it to Summit, so this is a player who has still got a long way to potentially go despite all the years behind him. Let's take a look though at page 2, because we want to take a look at the teams that are on the cusp of qualification. Right now we're looking at the top 14, so you can see Frozy and Kenty, who found themselves in that end game at the end of game 3 on that threshold, but directly below them, Pink and Friss and Yapko and Panzer. And for Yapko and Panzer right now going up 6 16 places. I guess what's been eluding them in this lobby mini minor is consistency.
Yeah, it's just been that consistency. We saw them, of course, on height in that last game. Zone was very favorable for them. I think there was then another team that tried to take it, and it got a little bit messy at that point. So then, of course, it gave the green light for Marius and Fred Oxy to then go ahead and take it. But they put themselves in a really good position here. It's about as good of a second last game as you can have already when it comes to putting yourself in contention, in within that sort of top 15. Also, Pink as well. Not a great game for them either.
Yeah, I got my eyes on Pink because they started pretty strong. 10th place, 5th place, but then they got a 28th and most recently a 35th. So it seems to be going wrong, kind of getting into that end game. Potentially something in the mid game is not allowing them to be as set up and ready to go. I haven't really seen enough of it, so I'm hoping that they can solve whatever is going wrong here in the final match.
Well, it's time for all of our duos to step things up. Nothing is guaranteed until the end of Game 5. So let's get into it with Levin2k and Taka.
Our last lobby of the day and a last opportunity, and Levin, we've kind of been indicating towards it all day long, but there are only so many spots on that battle bus for the Major 2 Grand Finals, and this is the last stop before the last chance lobby that these players will have, and obviously everybody wants to get it done in this competition. You don't want to have to worry about actually going through that slew of competition later on.
Look, all I can say is it's a big last game. It's a big last game. I think ultimately we're going to see who's about it. There's been so many different players who I think have started the day hot and have sort of tapered off. There's been people who have started to climb the ranks. But all that matters is this final opportunity. Who will make it happen here in game number 5?
And with that last stop on the battle bus just underway, Della and Alec quick off the drop, immediately trying to see whether or not they can take out players that are still aiming, touch foot on the ground. But they've had a very solid day so far, just hoping to keep that one full steam ahead. Don't want to slow down here with how basically tight-knit the competition is really shaping up to be towards that bottom end of the leaderboard.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting game because, you know, yesterday he won. We saw the final game ended up turning into just an absolute mess, right? As far as people sort of W keying and running about and it was just all over the place. This time around, I do think there's a lot more players who probably have the incentive to just try as hard as possible to try and make it through to the end. But ultimately, everybody wants to see some of their favorite names make it through, and I'm here to tell you right now, my people, you're going to be leaving with some upsets. It's always a guarantee in the heats, and I think here in Heat 2 especially, we're going to feel the pain. Trulex and Faded not quite had the day that they have needed to inspire people with confidence that Trulex is back, but it's not the end, because a win here would do everything for them. Of course, we've seen them at times try and look to play for height when given the opportunity. I think we're going to need an all-time height classic from him. From Sky and Scroll, I think what many people would consider the biggest names and the best names in EU left here in this lobby. It's going to be about doing what they have started to do towards the back end of last game, where they just have their consistent Sky Scroll games.
You just really don't want to see them continue flirting with potential disaster, I think is the big thing here, because even with Sky and Scroll always having that in the back pocket of being able to just whip out a victory royale, it's still just never guaranteed. And Rax, Yanis, even with an early tumble here against Surefour and Repairs, it won't necessarily be that devastating given the fact that they have had such a strong, consistently performing day already. Yanis still a survivor as well off that scrap, but depends on whether or not Surefour and Repairs are actually going to choose to key him or not. Definitely going to play defense on that reboot van and just cut off Yanis' escape route. Surefour Repairs though, still playing it a little bit steadier. Wanted to ensure that they had the proper pincer angle to prevent any kind of escape methods there from Yanis, but even looking back, Surefour Repairs, they know that this is a fight that they needed to come out victorious for. They are just right there on the cusp of making it in for the placement metrics. And even with Victor Royale still hinging as a possibility, knowing that there are so many teams also trying to send for that kind of Hail Mary, a lot more of a guarantee is just to be found, I think, in finding that strong endgame placement, the handful of elimination to go with it, given their current point metrics already.
And we're already seeing on the leaderboard with Rax and Yanis going down with 192. You've got to think that they are safe, but that's not the biggest point. The biggest point now is the team that's probably been the lobby bosses for quite a couple games now aren't in it to ruin people's day. The way Rax has been moving on some of those mid-ground layers, just having him out of the lobby helps give people more of a chance to catch up, and that is great news for everybody trying to push themselves into one of those consistency spots.
Could say it's even a bit reminiscent of what was taking place yesterday with Shark and Teeny, the way that Rex and Yanis were sort of making their way through the lobbies. But here in game 5, Dirty and Zentify recognizing they're not going to really be able to get much more out of this exchange. They'd rather try and play for the end game. Does look like Disaster very prone to strike for some of these teams. Tayson getting Murstache off the reboot, but with Della and Alex so nearby. Vixen also off in a surge base in the distance here. Tayson gonna hope that he can escape, but Della and Alec, at least with that elimination onto Murstache, just going to pose so many problems here for Tayson, because now he's forced to just wait around for everyone else to leave, and the odds of Alec and Della not choosing to continue bothering him is very slim.
We always ask questions, is it right to go back to your ex-duo partner? Or is staying away for the best? In the case of the story of Tayson and Murstache, it's starting to look like the latter. Hope is not completely lost though. Tayson will be able to attempt to recover the game.
Panzer and Yapko though, just another one of those teams where panic hasn't necessarily broken out just yet, but for Darm, Deemish, they've got to really make this one count. It has been a very problematic heats for them so far, but they can pull it out in the end game and finalize on a strong finish. That's all that really matters. Sometimes the start can go a little bit south, but got to keep your head up and keep your composure. And that's something that they are certainly already privy to. Got to wait and see how they actually manage to finish things out here in game 5. Snozq, Laha, another one of those teams, just so close in terms of making it into that top 15, but it also just feels so far away. And Pink Haris, they were the cutoff heading into lobby number 5. They cannot afford to stumble here.
There's so much pressure. So much pressure on a team who started the day really strong, looking like they were a potential lock to qualify. A team who many people have started to doubt for valid reasons. It's been a while since we've seen both players performing at their peak, but we've seen glimpses of it. And right now they're gonna both have to hold on to that glimpse and just ride that wave as far as they can into the top 10. Tayson and Murstache, another team looking to replicate a similar story. And a duo who, even today, have shown us what they're capable of. Shown us that they aren't finished, they aren't completely washed, even if people want to attach that to their names. But if they can't qualify, if they can't pull something out in this game 5, it will be a painful end to today's heat.
Bit of a silver lining for them, though, is at least the fact that Tayson was able to bring Murstache back off the reboot. So now it's just down to them to try and see if they can get more recovery, try and convert into a solid finish here in game 5. Twy, Cringe, up and down but for the most part, a lot more in the middle than what we are used to seeing from this duo. They do tend to be more that standout component, and yet here today, so many teams have struggled with that.
Yeah, they had a rough start. And, you know, I bigged them up because I do believe in this duo. And I think the last game was an example of why, right? They came fourth with 3 limbs. And it's the exact type of game they needed to put themselves in a position to hold on to a consistency spot. And so now that's what it is about for these guys. Holding on, doing just enough to finish over that line.
Bunyan, Nefrizi, Marius, and Fredoxy looking like a little bit of a nail biter. There's about 50 points separating the two, though. Fredoxy and Marius most definitely in a better position here in terms of making it in off consistency.
And this team is the team that, for me, Taco is almost frustrating to watch, because we watch them at this stage in the game and I'm always ready to just look away. I don't even need to watch them. I know they're good. I know they're gonna make it to the end game. They've done it time and time again today. It's about what happens when they get there. Every single game, we've seen them go for these height takes, and just no matter what happens, they cannot hold on to height.
The main reason behind that certainly seems to be a bit of a struggle there for them to actually have enough material, enough builds to stay on top of the high ground. But it's difficult. Even if you get knocks or eliminations while you're holding height, you still have to find some means to actually drop down to where the body loot is at to gather up that refresh of builds. And that's something that has definitely been a bit problematic for them whenever they have gone for height, as well as just the immediate challenges. So many other teams have caused problems in terms of permitting them to actually hold onto height. But it's a good way. Have your metal tested right before the big starring, and that's really the Major 2 Grand Finals. This is the time to start working those things out. Bit of a preview. Tayson and Mustache. They've made it back over to Sinister Strip, their original starting point. And they're primarily just trying to see whether or not they'll be able to build up any kind of momentum. It's going to be a tough spot. Surge still looking much better than what you would have anticipated given the start, but this could be a big part of the reason why Tayson and Mustache just lurking up on Panzer, who had no idea. Panzer nearly turning this one around, but those are the exact kind of risky plays that Tayson and Mustache, they just have to opt for.
And again, if we're nitpicking, that's great. Great play. Slight down marks on the execution, right? And again, in a net surge world, the damage is great, but the damage lost also takes away from the greatness of the play. And so we'll keep them 100 above, and that's fine for the next couple of zones. But as soon as we start getting towards the 8th zone, they're going to really need to have started to put in a bit more work on the damage front. Dom and Demus, they don't want to have to worry about that whatsoever. They're saying, look, we've kind of been messing around the past couple of games, guys. We're sorry. We were just playing with you guys. This is how we like to deal with Surge in these types of lobbies. We run around and we eliminate everyone. The pickaxe coming out is a disrespect. But that is the quality of these two, Taco.
And that's the thing, it's that it almost feels like it was calculated, like they had lulled the lobby into this false sense of security that they weren't going to be as big of a threat as they're not creating. Here in Game 5 is Pink Paris still stuck in this mess. They've been trapped at this position for so long now.
It's like I'm looking at them and I'm not happy. And I think if you're a big fan of them, you won't be happy right now, because looking at that number of builds for Pink isn't going to be filling you with confidence. As the zones get smaller and smaller and the margins get tighter and tighter, they're going to need a lot more to work with if they have any chance of sneaking their way back into that top 10 or holding on to the top 10, right? Going into 15th in this game.
For Sky and Scroll, this is gonna get way too close for comfort. 59 below currently for Scroll, 128 points, but it's primarily just the fact that Skrull is a solo. Sure, we've seen him play from this position time and time again, but the problem is this is a duo that is just inside of that top 15 for the placements.
This is catastrophic. This would be a disaster. There's potential here for us to have, what, the reigning EU major champions not returning? I mean, we've bigged up Sky and we've bigged up Skrull, not just for their teamwork, but for their individual ability. And now is going to be a crucial moment for Skrull to showcase exactly what he is about, all as a solo. And as much as I emphasize how scary of a spot this is for him, if there's anyone in this lobby that can do it, you've got to think it's Skrull.
Without a doubt, but at the same time, it's the fact that he's in this position to begin with, still sitting just 14 below. Catch me flying overhead. Some well-placed shots here from Skrull, but he's still going to need just a little bit more. Finally manages to squeeze out 31 above the search threshold, but when you are trailing behind where the rest of the lobby is currently rotating through and also giving away your positioning, other players are bound to recognize the fact that this is a solo operation currently for Skrull. And he's looking around, head on a swivel, just trying to still maintain steady awareness here, but Tayson, Mustache also encountering their own issues with the surge. They've got some white heels to work with, but the Chug Jug has just ran out. Knock on to Dirty, though, that'll be the real bailout currently for Mustache and Tayson, but they still need time to heal. They are incredibly low. They are so injured. They can't afford another tick of the Storm Surge and 2 above, but it's just not enough. Tayson and Mustache are out of Game 5 and out of contention. They'll have to wait for the last chance lobby.
And that might be the last time we see the former champs here on this broadcast. I'd like to think not, but the story does continue for all these other teams and all these other players. Skrull has changed his fortunes quite a bit, is able to turn his surge situation around just, but after that one, it's going to put him back in a precarious situation. Again, has the HP to heal, but the zone is not working in his favor. He doesn't have the support of another teammate, even with all the materials he does have. He's going to have to be very intentional here, Taco, about where exactly he looks to position himself as this last game continues to tick along. And you can see him looking to go the long way around, choosing to go back into the storm to try to find a more favorable spot to rotate into this 8th zone. And it might have just been a masterstroke, Taco, because now he's sitting a bit more comfy. There's less pressure on him and a bit more time to heal up here.
But he's used the entirety of his Chug Jug. Fortunately, he is sitting 262 above, but even with a material count to work with for the time being, we've seen how quickly those can be depleted, especially when you are working as a solo. But for Pink and Horis, despite what looked like a bit of a messy start here, seems like they've managed to accrue just a handful of elimination points and a decent spot. The material count is where we were last having our biggest concerns for them, but they can continue to find refreshes. It's really all it takes. Medius and Fordoxy, though, waiting for the opportunity, trying to get the setup in play to make their move on height.
Beamish and Dom playing at a level and an intensity that we have not seen from them all day long. Playing exactly how we expected to see a Beamish and Dom play in Heat 2 here today. And just completely destroying the hopes and dreams of players looking to try and make it to the major final. As they rotate in on late, Beamish is ready for you to enter.
See that huge tunneling. Believe that was the leftovers of Pink and Horis. And they've definitely been trying to do everything they can to carve their way through these lower layers, despite having Darm and Beamish holding, trying to play gatekeepers towards that last edge of zone on the backside positioning. But just scoping out for a moment. For Doxy and Medius, they found their chance to strike. They are on height. The build count is in a decent spot, but they are going to need more.
4 games in a row. They've looked to hold it here. And will this be the 4th game in a row where they lose it in the moving zones? Pink and Haris, they might not be too worried about what's going on above for just now. They're just trying to stay alive in this game to do enough to keep themselves ticking. Scroll, I mean, what a performance this is so far. For him to even still be up in this game is impressive, but this is exactly what he needs to do. We saw the threshold for yesterday's heat be around this mark. He doesn't want to take any risks.
Can't afford to take the risk either, because we've seen just how rapidly those
No
placements
way.
can sneak up on you, and other teams can just leapfrog where you were last standing. Alec and Della, one of those teams just ahead of Sky and Scroll's placement, and Scroll coming up big time with a shot against Surefour, but he can't get the body. The roll around is going to be the ultimate problem, and Sky, Scroll, they'll have to sit and wait and figure out whether or not they've done enough to keep their placement inside of the consistency.
That would be a painful way for it to all end. They'll be keeping their fingers crossed as they watch along with us. Deemish and Dom, though, they still have plenty to do. And they have done some of the hardest work, which is getting to this point as strong as they are. But still now, the wrong rotation, the wrong decision, the wrong edit open could be enough to completely demolish their Grand's hopes now. Haris and Pink barely holding on by a nice edge, and Marius and Fredoxy, of all the teams who we've been following and tracking their stories here, they might be the one that again has the biggest upturn and surprise of them actually being able to hold on to height in a game. Haris now having to clutch up solo just like Dom will. The solo clutches are gonna be what gets it done, Taco.
And the problem is they've got to contend with the players that are on the layers above them. Height just proving to be such an issue right now. Everyone just running so thin on their material count, and Darm won't be able to stave it off any longer. That's going to be another duo taken out, forced to just stare it down at the leaderboard to see if they've done enough here, as Cringe and Twy now really coming alive in the final hour. But this is exactly where they needed to showcase their strengths, because they are sitting in a rather comfortable position currently, just based off these 7 eliminations that they've managed to build up here. Good control, front side low, but they need to see what more they can squeeze out.
It doesn't matter how you start, as long as you can finish as strong as those two. Ivan and Hizix, they've been impressive throughout the day, but they look to try and close things out in style. Frosty almost is able to get a cipher, but not quite. Twy will go down, and that leaves Cringe with all the loot in the lobby to try and fend off. It's Fred and Marius who look to reclaim this game. How many times have we seen them on hype today, and how many times have they let it slip through their fingers? None of that matters, because they win game 5.
Nice.
Marius get it done in the clutch.
Ah,
Times
nice.
the charm sometimes, after all, when it comes to Fredoxy and Medius. But Levin, I truly feel like we saw everyone kind of just sending it in this final lobby. Everybody was just throwing whatever they could at the wall to see whether or not something would stick, and this leaderboard is bound to get messy. So I need to hear from the desk what's been going on.
Well, everything has been going on. We see Yanis and Rax top of the consistency leaderboard go down in the early game, and then everything is up for grabs. We see Scroll clutching zone after zone. Has he done enough for him and Sky? We're still not sure. We see finally Fredoxy and Marius actually succeed on the high ground, and Demas and Darm sending it and being rewarded for their efforts. But were their efforts enough? Mini minor, everything feels at stake right now.
Yeah, so many questions to answer right there, but I'm just thinking about Fredoxy. Finally, you guys have figured out how to play high finally after the whole day. You know, they were losing it a lot earlier on. I said it in that last game. I didn't mind the way they lost height in that last game, because they did enough to get enough into the game to actually earn enough placement points. So even if that height take and overall height play didn't actually result in a win, ultimately they pretty much already qualified too. But it's nice to actually see these guys Takata finally coming alive and showing us what we'd expect when we think about how good of a 2025 both of these individual players had. On paper, this is a duo that should have got the job done way earlier on, but finally, it doesn't matter, I suppose. They're in the grand finals.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, to put it in simple terms, Fortnite is all about kind of setting yourself up for success, putting yourself in positions where you could have really big games. And it's not always going to go your way. There's so many things going on, but that's exactly what Fred and Marius were capable of 4 times in a row, right? They finally got the win. It took 4 attempts, but every single time they were going for height, different times. They were trying to overtake it sometimes, take it early, but ultimately they got the job done, and that is exactly what matters.
So the question is, can they actually continue this? Can they build on this going into the grand finals? That's something we'll get to discuss next weekend, because we need to confirm our Victory Royale winners from the 5 games tonight. These are all duos. We will be waiting to see if they can repeat this form in an even more stacked lobby. Vico and Malabuka, obviously no strangers to this level of competition. They set the standard and they set it in game 1, Takata.
That they did. Game 2, Dinas for Neck, Malds, Lyric for Strokey, Noah, Marius for Doxy. These are some big names that were booking themselves golden tickets straight to the finals. But there's something in the back of my mind that I just keep thinking of. That one elimination that Scroll did not get on the person rolling around. I'm really hoping that they make it on the consistency leaderboard, because if they don't because of that, it would be heart crushing, devastating.
Did they get the confirmed elimination on Shersh? We're not sure, so let's take a look at the leaderboard and see where we're at. Remember, we're looking from 6 to 15 here.
Please.
So as you can see, Cringe and Twy, they made it. The British Bulldogs are in the final. Rax and Yanis, despite going out early, they were so consistent in their previous games. They are going to be there. We can see Frizzy and Kenji going up, and Cringe and Volko also. So let's head to page number 2. Will Sky and Scroll be in it? Yes, they will. They have done it. Divas and Dom.
Let's go.
They have done it, Mini Minor.
Yeah, they have. That was far too close for comfort.
Oh my God. No way.
Scroll having to solo clutch from way before that.
Scroll was locked in. That's all I got to say. Scroll was locked.
Just 1 point behind, just like Sanya Gold and Craig, who had a really great start to the day. My heart breaks for those guys as well. They started so strongly, but couldn't quite finish in that way as well. And even their search and repairs, big last chance needed for these guys, of course, to qualify through, because they don't make it. And I was actually really excited to see what these guys could bring this major after such a good major one.
You can see also No Tayson and Mustache qualified there, so they'll also be heading to the last chance qualifier. We'll be broadcasting day 2 of that on Tuesday. Definitely don't miss it. There's going to be some big names there. I wonder if we can see the next page of the leaderboard as well. Yapko and Panzer as well fell out of contention in that last game. They were on the threshold, unfortunately couldn't stick the landing on that one. So you can see they were 24th in the end. Bad game for them. Vanya and the Frizzy going up 10 places, too late for those guys, so we will see them in the last chance lobby alongside Mustache and Tayson. And just the eye test for these guys, Mini Minor, do you think that it was worth getting back together? Is there potential for these guys to actually pick themselves up in time for that last chance qualifier?
It's always the question, isn't it? When you don't have a great performance in the heats, then it's like, do you stick with your teammate that you've been preparing so many strats for throughout the entire season? Of course, in their case, they have had a little bit of a split and then, of course, got back together. So maybe they would be one of the teams that are more likely to actually split, because usually I feel like it's better for teams just to stick together. At least that's my opinion about it. But yeah, maybe we'll see these guys switching things up, because there are still some big names that still, of course, haven't qualified through.
Well, Takata, would you like to run it back with us tomorrow?
I would like to, if I'm allowed.
Oh my goodness, well, I don't get to decide, but if I could, I would say yes, please. Come back to both of you, and to, of course, to Levin and Taco, and to you guys watching, because in less than a few hours' time, we're going to have NA Central, and you know you don't want to miss it. Will Kelly have a whiteboard back? You'll have to wait and see. As for us, though, we'll see you tomorrow at the same time. Let's sound that horn.
That was a good last game. I'm gonna end stream. I'll see y'all on Tuesday.